The hashtag Herzl100 started on June 6, 2026, and it was my initiative to post 100 Herzl artifacts in 100 days. It was a countdown, so these are items 39 to 30. They were shared on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you want more information about Herzl, go to www.herzlcollection.com. Enjoy these posts, which are items 39, counting down to 30 in the Herzl 100. What I'm holding is an early example of the passion and commitment of the Jewish people to Herzl's dream and the Zionist project. This is a card issued by a Jewish Colonial Trust share club. We heard about the Jewish Colonial Trust in number 52, which was a company that was incorporated under the laws of England and was a Jewish Zionist investment bank that funded development and investment in the land of Israel, then called Palestine. But the shares of the Jewish Colonial Trust were very expensive, about £1 in England. And so share clubs were established where you would buy shares on installment and you would pay 10 pence or so to get a sticker. You'd put it in a booklet such as this, and when the booklet was complete, you would turn it in for a share certificate. This one was issued in London, England in 1901, but it wasn't only in England that this type of system was developed. Here are labels for a similar club issued in Canada. And here is a sticker for Share Club to purchase shares of the Jewish Colonial Trust issued in Boston in the United States. Zionism was an initiative that brought together the Jewish people to help build a better future for themselves. And today, Zionism remains a project of the Jewish people, both outside of Israel and inside Israel, to create the model society, the country that's living in peace, a democratic country with equal rights and equal benefits for all. It remains a work in progress, but the early investors in Zionism, those from 1901 and that period of time, their commitment helped to build it, and our continued commitment will help to preserve, protect, and enhance Herzl's dream. What I am holding is a copy of the Hamelitz newspaper that was issued in St. Petersburg in January of 1899. The Hamelitz, which means the advocate, the defender, the spokesman. Interestingly, it's a Hebrew newspaper. And on the front page, it says, Sicha in Dr. Theodor Herzl, a conversation with Dr. Theodor Herzl. And this particular issue is the first of 6 issues, which contains the text of an interview that took place with Herzl in Vienna on January 23rd, 1899. And the interviewer was a gentleman named Reuven Brainin, who in the 19-teens came to Montreal and was a very prominent member and leader of the Montreal Jewish community. And there's a lot of good information that Herzl shares in this 6-part interview, including that when he wrote the Judenstaat, the Jewish state, his book Medinat HaYehudim in 1896, he assumed that he would launch the book and someone would take over and implement his plan. And then Zionists approached him and they came to Vienna where he lived and said, you have to help us make this happen. And that's how he transitioned from being an author to the leader of the Zionist movement. And there are all kinds of other things discussed in this interview. For instance, what is going to happen to the movement after you die? And he talks about this, that a leader should carry on. People question, who made you the leader of the organization? And he said, the leader as elected by the Zionist Congress, but if people don't like the way I'm doing things, then let someone else lead it. It was a democratic organization. And what's really important is the transparency of the Zionist movement, that Herzl sat for a lengthy interview in his home in Vienna, and the results of which were serialized in 6 issues of Hamelitz in January and February of 1899. What I am holding is a very unique photograph. It shows probably the most number of horses ever seen on the streets of Jerusalem. This photograph is from August 1949 and shows the funeral procession of Theodor Herzl when he was reinterred in Jerusalem. Herzl died in 1904, and in his will, he asked to be reburied in the Jewish state he envisioned once that state comes into creation. That happened 44 years after his death, and the new Israeli government had lots to do after independence. War of Independence, bringing people from the displaced persons camps, starting a country. So it took 1 year until August 1949 that Herzl's last wish was realized. And this was not a sad day in the new state of Israel, but a festive day. It was the return of the visionary, the completion of a cycle, the completion of a dream. And so he lay in state at the Jewish Agency building in Jerusalem, and then was taken down what this is King George Street by horseback or horse-led procession until he was buried on what became Mount Herzl. And this is quite significant to talk about these days, because on Wednesday, August 5th, 2026, Herzl's grandparents, Shimon and Rivka Herzl, will be reburied on Mount Herzl too. They are buried in Belgrade, which is in Serbia. Shimon died in 1879, and his wife Rivka died in 1888. And they will be reinterred in a ceremony that is under the supervision of the President of the State of Israel. Israel's Prime Minister will be there. Yaakov Chaguel, the head of the World Zionist Organization, will be there. The World Zionist Organization, the organization which Herzl created at the First Zionist Congress in 1897, still exists, and in a beautiful completion of a circle is facilitating the reburial of Herzl's grandparents. And they had an influence on his Zionism and his desire, his passion to create a Jewish state. So what a beautiful event it is and will be. I don't know if there'll be this many horses involved, but it is a historic day, the reinterment of Herzl's grandparents in Israel after 150 years from their passing. What I'm holding is a rare and beautiful tray made in the Damascene style. Damascene means either from Damascus or an art style from Damascus in Syria. And you can see Herzl, the Star of David. Look how ornate it is, and the word Herzl in Hebrew beneath it. And this is just one of many examples of Herzl's likeness being portrayed on art. It was a way, and continues to be a way, for Herzl's dream to be kept alive. There are many more examples, current examples. For instance, there's this, Hipster Herzl. And this is by the artist Ofek Wordman. A likeness of Herzl with the words, wow. So this is from now. This is from 1910 or so. So for more than 120 years, people have been portraying Herzl, and not because of his striking good looks and his beard, but because of his importance. He gave the Jewish people hope at a time where they had no hope for a better future. And I dare say he should give the Jewish people hope now. The state of Israel has its troubles. It has since its formation. And Herzl teaches us that we are not saddled with the conditions in which we find ourselves today. We can dream of a better future. We can make the future better. And so by portraying Herzl on fancy trays or on coasters or on any number of things. It should remind us of that dream and help us commit to the better future that Herzl tells us it is possible to have. What I am holding is perhaps the most unique Herzl item in existence. It's a Ukrainian Easter egg with a picture of Theodor Herzl on it. And on the back of the egg is Herzl's motto, "If you will it, it is no dream," by Theodor Herzl. Herzl believed that the future could be better for the Jewish people and universally for all people. This egg was given to me after October 7th by a member of the Ukrainian community who just wanted to reach out and do something to show their anger, their solidarity with members of the Jewish community after the tragedy that befell the people of Israel and more broadly the Jewish people on October 7th. And this should remind us that the Jewish people have allies. We do have our detractors. We do have people who dislike us or, I dare say, hate us. Why is a very detailed story, and perhaps we focus too much on those who may hate us and not enough on those who care about us, who understand us, and want to help fashion the peaceful, better future that Herzl envisioned. So when I look at this egg, I think about the back of it. If you will it, it is no dream. We think perhaps that an Israel living in peace with its neighbors, finally solving the issues that Israel has with its enemies in the region and around the world, that we think it's intractable, it will never end. But it will end. If we will it, if we work to make it happen, it is no dream. It can happen. If the state of Israel can happen, anything can happen. Herzl teaches us that. Behind me is a large inverse painting of Theodor Herzl with a decorative rim. Inverse painting means the painting is on glass from the back. And in this painting, there are swans, a snake, lions, a Star of David with the word Zion in it, and under Herzl's picture, 1915. So this piece was made in 1915, and it was found in a synagogue in Brooklyn. Now, I don't know what synagogue that was. So if anyone who's watching recognizes this picture from their childhood, from attending a synagogue in Brooklyn, and know which synagogue it was, please let me know. It's an example of just a beautiful art piece depicting Herzl looking in this direction, looking towards the future. An iconic picture of Herzl in a beautiful decorative surrounding. This piece was on the cover of my book, Collecting the Dream. Collecting the Dream features highlights of the items in my collection, many of which you're seeing in the Herzl 100. This is available for free download on my website, www.herzlcollection.com. So please go to the website if you wish and download a copy for free for yourself. The book, the website, this series is all about communicating and sharing the work of Herzl, that he should be an inspiration for all of us to continue his dream. His dream was a state of Israel, a Jewish state, then later called Israel, which was a flourishing, progressive, democratic state that lived in peace with its neighbors and inures to the benefit of all of its residents. So please take a look at the book and continue watching the Herzl 100 as we march towards number one, the greatest Herzl item of them all. What I'm holding is a small and early example of Zionist Americana. This is a pin with the likeness of Herzl and Max Nordau on it, made by the Whitehead and Hoag pin manufacturing company of Newark, New Jersey in the early 1900s. And it features Theodor Herzl and Max Nordau. Max Nordau was Herzl's early partner in the Zionist movement. He was a noted author, a journalist, and he was a physician. He was born with the last name Sudfield, which means Southern Field, and changes his name to Nordau, which means Northern Meadow. Herzl went to see him in his capacity as a psychiatrist, Nordau's capacity as a psychiatrist, to deal with his obsession for the future of the Jewish people, his anxiety and worries about anti-Semitism and the need for self-determination, because people thought that Herzl was talking crazy when he was talking about a Jewish state. And Nordau said, if you're insane, we are insane together. Count me in. And that's when Nordau began to be Herzl's partner in the Zionist movement. Nordau was a speaker at the First Zionist Congress in 1897 in Basel, and he did a survey of a very sad and difficult survey of the situation of the Jewish people in various countries in the world. And he also, by the Second Zionist Congress, developed the idea of muscular Zionism. Jewish people should be healthy, athletic, gymnasts, runners, trying to change the future of the Jewish people and change the nature of the Jewish people. In my book, Collecting the Dream, which is available for free on my website, www.herzlcollection.com, there's an enlargement of this pin, one of the most unique and beautiful items that's included in the hashtag Herzl100. Keep watching because we're marching towards number one. I have many examples of Herzl on a bottle, on wine bottles, beer, even on a soda stream bottle. But there is only one example in existence of Herzl in a bottle. And this item is one of the hashtag Herzl100. So I don't know how they got Herzl in a bottle. I don't know who this gentleman is on the back of the bottle. And I don't know why Herzl is in a bottle. But this makes for a very special and mysterious item. All I can think of is that whoever was the purveyor of important people depicted in bottles maybe 100 years ago, they thought that Herzl deserved to be remembered, memorialized, and honored in this way. There are many, many examples of items, products, knickknacks, sculptures, stamps, posters, medals, etc., with Herzl's likeness on it, because it was about keeping Herzl's dream alive. Herzl gave to the Jewish people a new idea, the idea that we could be safe and secure and actualize our own potential and be free of anti-Semitism in our own homeland, which was the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people, the land of Israel, where Jews have lived uninterrupted for thousands of years. So if it meant honoring him in a bottle or on a bottle, this was the way that people tried to keep Herzl's dream alive. And the Herzl 100, which you are watching, is part of that same effort. The state of Israel exists, but the dream is not yet completed. The dream is the Jewish people, both in Israel and outside of the state of Israel, living safely, living freely, and the state of Israel living in peace. And when that should happen, let's all drink to that. What I'm holding is a copy of the book, The Jewish Political Tradition. But this side is not the important side of the book. This side is. This is a rendition of Herzl's iconic image on the balcony of the Three Kings Hotel in Basel, taken by E.M. Lillian, a photograph in 1901, which we saw in episode 55. This piece was created by the Israeli artist Lior Amitai, who made this same piece that is above me of Herzl playing hockey. He didn't play hockey, but that's for another day. And so this is really a very symbolic piece, because after Herzl was a lawyer and he quit the practice of law because he couldn't be a judge. Jews couldn't be judges in Austria, so he quit because of anti-Semitism. And he became a playwright, and then as a Zionist, he became an author. He wrote 2 books, both of which we've talked about in the Herzl 100. In 1896, he published the book The Judenstaat, the Jewish State. And in 1902, he wrote and published his book Alt Neuland, Old New Land, which was translated into Hebrew as Tel Aviv. The city of Tel Aviv is named after Herzl's book. The Jewish State was his idea, was almost a primer. What are the mechanics of creating the Jewish state? What steps do you go through? What are the institutions that are required to do that? Alt Neuland, his second book, was what does that society look like? The new society, which was progressive, it was democratic, it had a 7-hour workday, free education through the university, free health care, welcoming the stranger, equal rights for everyone. That was the articulation of Herzl's vision. He wrote it down in a book. He used the ways of communication in his time, letters, books, articles, interviews, and the like. These days, we're sharing Herzl's story through the modern communication mechanisms and media, on social media. So the hashtag Herzl Break that you're watching, you can find on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. All prior episodes, if you're just joining us now, all 70 or so preceding episodes are on those sites. Please watch them, please follow, please share, and please join me in continuing to think about Herzl and bringing his vision to full completion. What I am holding is a unique postcard from the 7th Zionist Congress, which was held in Basel, Switzerland in 1905. It is a 1 of 1. It probably wouldn't get a PSA 10 rating because a corner of it has been lost over history. The 7th Zionist Congress was the first Congress held after Theodor Herzl tragically passed away in July of 1904. And so you see the image here of Herzl off to the sideline, but watching the progression of pioneers and other Zionist followers as they continue to work on his dream of establishing the Jewish state. This particular postcard was from Clarence de Sola. He sent it. Clarence de Sola was a prominent Canadian Zionist from Montreal. And interestingly, in it, he writes, "Greetings from the 7th Zionist Congress to our friends in Toronto," which shows that there were delegates from Canada, obviously, and the United States and other countries at these early Zionist Congresses, and there was an interest in Zionism, friends in Toronto and other places around the world. This particular postcard is signed by Max Nordau, among other people. He was Herzl's partner and early supporter in the Zionist movement. And on the back, there are many, many more signatures, including the signature of Chaim Weizmann. Chaim Weizmann was a prominent Zionist leader, and ultimately, when the State of Israel was proclaimed on May 14, 1948, he was named Israel's first president. A beautiful piece of Zionist history which merits it being included in the hashtag Herzl100. Please continue to follow. The pieces get better and better as we approach number 1.